This is an outlandish story, okay? If this is true, and of course it's true because our crack team makes sure they look into everything, okay? They're investigative reporters. The cop who broke into a home and fabricated charges paid to resign? You had me at broke into a home. We didn't even have to get to the fabricated charges. Resign? See what's going on here. Officer Peter Beck has built a notorious reputation in his community for racial profiling. Well, that's not new. Now, Anaysheon Coffey, the woman who filed the federal lawsuit against the city and the Lancaster Police Department, has settled for $120,000. But Officer Beck, wonder what happened to him, right? Oh, he must be facing serious charges. Oh, he's working for another department right now. Just the way it goes. Here are the details for you. Anaysheon Coffey, South Carolina Black woman, was awarded a $120,000 settlement last month because a white cop with a history of racial profiling barged into her home without a warrant and arrested her on fabricated charges. That happened in August 2020. Didn't they call that the summer of racial reckoning, if I'm not mistaken? The cop who arrested her, Lancaster police officer Peter Beck, was forced to resign in April 2021. So even that took almost a year. It was after numerous citizens accused him of racial profiling, just over a year after he was forced to resign from the Lancaster County Sheriff's Office for having zero throttle, zero throttle control. Our friends at Atlanta Black start giving us the backstory here. Beck was given $60,000 to resign from Lancaster PD. It is now working with North Charleston Police Department in South Carolina. So he got money to go away, a leg up, if you will, and now he's still out there, has a badge, presumably a gun. Coffey, meanwhile, spent 5 years fighting for justice, including 2 years fighting the criminal charges against her, which were eventually dismissed, the fabricated ones. Lawsuit does not state what she had been charged with. No record of the charges on South Carolina court websites, but she was only able to file her lawsuit once she was cleared of those criminal charges. So you might be wondering what happened the day of the arrest. Well, after a brief conversation, defendant officer Peter Beck asked if he could come inside the plaintiff's residence. Plaintiff then informed Officer Peter Beck that he could not come inside because he did not have a warrant. Notwithstanding plaintiff informing defendant Officer Peter Beck that he could not come inside of her residence without a warrant, wouldn't you know it, Officer Peter Beck barged in, began to illegally search the apartment. Why bother to ask if you're going to do what you want to do? Just do what you want to do. I don't know why you asked in the first place. After illegally entering, searching the plaintiff's residence in violation of plaintiff's constitutional rights, plaintiff was wrongfully arrested, detained for alleged criminal offenses. Defendant Officer Peter Beck's wrongful arrest of plaintiff resulted in her being taken to jail and sustaining other damages. Let's get into Beck's past racial profiling complaints. This will take a minute. The lawsuit states that more than 20 residents attended a Lancaster City Council meeting in February 2021 to complain about Beck's racial animosity towards Black citizens, including Reverend Pelham, revealing that he had quickly earned a notorious reputation in less than a year working for the Lancaster Police Department. Arlene Clyburn said Beck has harassed members of her family and has provoked fear in the Black community, pulling people out of their cars, putting them in handcuffs, and then you turn around and let them go. Arlene Clyburn complained to the city council, this according to WSOC TV. Beck was placed on administrative leave March 2021. He resigned in April 2021, along with that $60,000 payout. Coffey's charges were not dismissed until January 2022. It's often a tactic. Let's just see if she will go away and not, make too much trouble. It's sometimes what they do. Didn't work this time. But she only learned about the drop charges in April 2022. So they let her just dangle out there, losing opportunities, fear, trauma. And she found out through her own research an indication the city was trying to keep her from filing her lawsuit. See, this is what they do. Beck said, he comes from a family of cops. Uh-oh. My dad was, he's a retired cop. My uncle's a retired cop. My great-grandfather is a retired cop. So it's kind of in the blood, he said during a deposition in 2024. I don't want to bring other people into this, but I know what I would do. I'm going through the court dockets. I'm looking up everybody. Lancaster Police Department hired Beck in April 2020, despite warnings from the sheriff's office that he was a liability, according to a defamation lawsuit filed by Beck against the Lancaster County Sheriff's Office in August 2021, which ended up getting dismissed. Now, you know it's bad when another law enforcement agency gives another one a heads up about you. When you break blue code to say, whoa, this one's a problem, you might want to pay attention that they didn't, and look what happened. The warnings included statements from Lancaster County Sheriff's Major J.M. Shaw to Lancaster Police Lieutenant Small, like, Beck has zero throttle control, and they were unable to control him. He's wild. He's perhaps what you would call a feral cop. He's just wild out there, just making up his own rules and targeting people, apparently. Beck filed his wrongful termination lawsuit against the sheriff's office 5 months later. It was dismissed in December 2024 when he was unable to persuade the judge that he had been the victim of defamation. Everybody's saying the same thing, but you're the victim. That's privilege. Coffey's attorney issued this statement. This resolution sends a powerful message that racial profiling and harassment won't be tolerated. Tyler Bailey, Coffey's attorney, said in a statement according to WCNC TV. Okay, so let's start with the statement. With all due respect to the attorney, who I think probably did a good job for Miss Coffey, based on what had happened and the climate that clearly she was being adjudicated falsely within. But with all due respect, the harassment and racial profiling is tolerated. And $120,000 doesn't mean it's not. That's nothing for what was done here. You broke into I don't know why criminal charges aren't filed here. You broke into her home. You made up charges. That's not a resignation. That's a clink, clink, book him. It's behind the back, I think. Thankfully, I've never had to face it. Let's get a book him and have the, here in Georgia, it's the GBI, that law enforcement agency in South Carolina. I don't know why we're talking about $120,000 when this person should be adjudicated a threat to the community. Bolo was. I mean, this is bananas now. Am I right to focus on a measly $120,000 and this is systemic even. Beck is a fool, and I believe, based on these actions, if all this is true, a criminal. But what about the system? Letting the charges go through, not informing her when they were dismissed, like all this wrangling over the real criminal, Beck. And now he's working again? Make it make sense.
Yeah, I think the only way to understand the sequence of events here is just the nature of the power of most police unions. They just end up being kind of ironclad, and it's kind of impossible to fire a police officer short of like, you got to catch this guy like red-handed, taking drug money or something like that, or doing something to a fellow police officer, something like this, where they just basically harass citizens and make a citizens, and particularly a citizen who isn't considered part of the higher social strata. Like, I think paying this guy to leave shows you that this is kind of the best they could do under the circumstances, where it's like the union is powerful enough that if this guy wants to stay in the job, that he can. And the best these guys could do was to give him 60 grand to go be a cowboy maniac, raging racist at some other department. Like, I think it's just the nature of how police unions operate. Like, these guys are impossible to fire, let alone charge criminally. Like, that's
Yeah.
what we've learned over the last, I would say, since Ferguson, when we've really ramped up paying attention to how police departments operate. It seems like these guys are just impossible to get rid of. And, I think what like for me, that this guy is able to go out and just get another
Mhm.
job somewhere. I just think police ideology is so deeply felt and strong that these other departments, and I think most people who hold like this firm belief that policing is like, this imperative and everything they do needs to be excused. I think they see what he did to this poor woman and say that's part of the job. That's part for the course. They send us out here to go deal with the rabble, to go deal with the riffraff that polite society doesn't want to deal with. Yeah, sometimes we fall off the edge. It's all good. That's what it takes to be a cop. I genuinely think that's what most of these people think. Obviously, they're wrong, but I think people within police departments, cops themselves, that's what they think.
I agree. A couple of things. I think you mentioned, unless they're caught red-handed. I mean, we've seen them caught red-handed
And
and
still get away. Yeah.
still get away with it, right? And I like everything you said. You backed it up because, again, I'll say it, this is systemic. This is systemic behavior. And as much as I'd like to blame it all on the police union, because of course they have backed some trash nonsense over the course of many years in many jurisdictions, they were warned. Again, I come back to it. When another police organization calls you up and says, hey, fellow blue, you might want to watch this feral cop. That's the term I'm going to use. He's wild. He's out there making his own laws, doing his own thing, abusing people. Uh, and you hire him anyway? This is who you are. This is who you are. And then you make what he did to the woman even worse. You co signed on it. You didn't dismiss the charges. You knew he was a liar. You knew exactly they said, we can't control this guy. We can't control this guy. And you said, we'll hire him. Give him a pension. Oh, and then you didn't arrest him. You gave him $60,000 parting gift. America, you better look at your life. I'll give you the last word, Woes.
So I tend to be somebody who, and many people disagree with me about this. I tend to take the view that the cops, generally speaking, if they see you as not part of, some higher echelon of our society socially, they'll crack your head. Like I don't think cops, if they perceive somebody to be white trash or trailer trash or whatever, I don't think cops hesitate to bust skulls of those people. They tend to view like, you know, people who they see as the rabble or again the riffraff, independent of race most of the time, they're willing to beat you up and even at times even kill you. Even poor whites, they'll use a gun and kill you. However, I think South Carolina specifically has one of the most horrible records on race of any state in the union. I just don't think that can be disputed in terms of the historical record. And it's hard for even me to separate the factor of race in this guy's insane behavior. Like, it's hard to argue that this guy isn't a product of the horrible racial history of South Carolina specifically, and that wasn't a motivating factor in how this dude conducted himself as a police officer out there in Lancaster, and probably will continue to conduct himself in North Charleston.
Yeah. Black resident after Black resident stepping before the city council, February 2021 is our reporting, saying, look, this guy is off the chain. He's doing a lot of nonsense. He's hurting a lot of people. He's targeting Black citizens. Do something. Please do something. Well, they did. They handed him a 5-figure settlement for what? For being on the other end of the law, the opposite end, privilege, and be on the lookout. Wherever this guy goes, I'm warning the public, bolo, bolo.